Good morning, people. I hope you're in for a great day today. We're going to continue talking about friendship, and we've spoken about some of the chemistry aspects that makes good friendships work, compatibility and counsel and correction and comfort and all of those amazing things. But today I'd like to add a very practical aspect of friendship, and that is the C of communication. I believe it is true to say that there is a strong link between the depth of communication and the ultimate depth of that relationship. You see, you can have communication without relationship, but you cannot have relationship without communication. And the depth of the communication will determine the depth of the relationship. Now, the depth of the communication is affected by other factors as well. You've got the nature of the relationship. Sometimes we just have casual relationships where we see someone we know and we wave at them, or we just shout hi across the road. We have got courteous relationships with people across the till. We've got convenient relationships where I have to interact with people at my work because we have to get a job done. And then we have more sort of deeper relationships, with relationships of commitment and of even covenant, as it would be in a marriage. But the depth of relationship is going to be determined by the depth of communication. Here's a great verse from Proverbs 25 verse 11. It says this: "A word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver." How poetic and philosophical is that, but how deeply practical as well. A word aptly spoken. Aptly spoken. A word that is applicable, a word that is in season. So many of us speak words out of season. We wonder why we reap no reward, because the word is out of season. James is the book that we're studying in our church services at the moment. Talks about the power of the tongue, and he uses two beautiful analogies. He says this little muscle in the body over here is the most powerful in the whole body. He talks about the tongue being like the rudder on a ship, that little rudder determines where that enormous vessel goes. He says your tongue is like the bit in a horse's mouth, that little piece of metal determines where that huge animal goes. The tongue is an incredibly powerful thing for good and for bad. When I think of negative forms of communication, which maybe we do need to talk about, we're going to talk about the other aspect probably next week, the power of good words. But the power of bad words are often sometimes the most destructive things in a person's life. What you say about somebody, whether it be to them or to somebody else, is incredibly powerful and can actually change the life and the destiny of that particular person. I urge you, therefore, to be careful what you say about people. People who are sitting around you have not very much to do, can often have idle tongues and talk about stuff that maybe has nothing really to do with them. Beware when you're sitting with friends of exaggeration over people. It seems so strange that by human nature we're drawn towards scandal. We seem to be drawn towards negative thinking about people. Something in our sinful nature makes that quite attractive. We have to fight against that. You see, there are some aspects of communication that we need to learn from because they're actually very practical. There are some communication killers out there. Let me give you a few things that will kill the depth of communication or the potential for deeper communication. The first one is anger. You want to have somebody to stop talking to you or stop communicating effectively with you to a greater depth. Just show anger toward them. And when people have temper tantrums and when people get upset and they verbalize things, because very often when we're angry we say things we don't really mean. And many times when we verbalize anger we're thinking afterwards, why did I say that? If you could control your anger, there'd be a whole lot of less mop-up operation that you would need to do thereafter. Anger is a communication killer of note. What about sulkiness? If I don't like what you're saying to me, I'll just ignore you. I'll just drop my lip and pretend that you're not there. This is a very powerful and yet insidious communication killer. I feel justified that I shouldn't speak to you. I feel justified that you've hurt my feelings. Therefore, because I don't like what you say, I'm just going to ignore you. Do you know how insidious and how destructive sulkiness can actually be. And then there are more practical communication killers out there. You know, people who know me know I have this thing against technology. Well, I like technology for what it can do, but man, if you don't know how to manage that thing, if you don't know how to control technology in your home, the use of your phone, the computers, the TVs, all that kind of stuff, you will kill communication with those closest to you. So manage those things well. I don't deny the fact that they have some merit, but boy, I've seen it get out of control where these things have overwhelmed people in their homes and with their children and in their lives, and it kills communication. Here's another one for you people. What about the abuse of alcohol? When people drink too much, they say really stupid things. And when people have too much to drink, they do things and say things that ordinarily they would never do, and they live with the regret and the consequence of that. Manage alcohol. You know, be strong in the way that you handle those particular things. And so when we look at, there are many other communication killers out there, but in order for the depth of communication to grow, we need to understand how the power of this tongue. I love the analogy of the words that we speak to people being like toothpaste. Well, once the toothpaste, you squeeze it and it's out, you can't take it back again. So today, as you go through today, let's be careful the way we speak to one another. Anger is a bad communication killer, as is sulkiness, as is so many other things that I'm sure you will be able to name a few. But let's learn to fight against those killers. Let's be careful what we say, because guys, once it's out, like toothpaste, you can't put it back again, and then you have to live with it. So I hope that that's just a practical little thought for you today. And bear in mind that beautiful verse that we've just read, Proverbs 25:11, a word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. Have a great day.